My name is First Lady Alicia Ramsey.
We are excited about the opportunity to come and to share with you today. I thank God for all of our tiers of leadership and all the people that serve in Full Gospel to make opportunities like this available.
My husband and I are now in charge of marriage and family for Full Gospel Fellowship, and it has been a blessing. We just came off of the first marriage and family conference that we were able to host.
Yeah, it was powerful. It was just a little bit taxing, but it was powerful and so rewarding, and we're excited about that and even excited about the future. We've always had a passion for marriage and family. You know, New Life Worship Center is a church we started, and I still pastor there, and she shares in that leadership. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've always built it on is faith, family, and finances. Those are three areas that I've been passionate about for the last 30 years.
Yes, and we want to thank Pastor Hall and Bishop Hall for passing the baton to us. May he rest in peace, because she gave us our blessing, and that meant a lot.
That meant a lot. I had the opportunity to have just a wonderful conversation with her on the phone, and she was so happy and excited that we are moving in this direction, and she definitely gave it her blessing. So we're excited to be here and to share with you on today.
Yes, and as always, giving honor to our presiding bishop, Bishop Joseph Walker III, and his wife, Dr. Stephanie Walker, and the founding bishop.
Absolutely. Bishop Paul S. Morton and Pastor Deborah Morton. We're so grateful for them as well. And we are excited about talking about this subject today because it's one that we deal with a lot.
Yes, a candid conversation with you. I know many of you are saying another virtual conference. That's why we want to make sure that we do our best to keep you engaged in the conversation. Mm-hmm. This is something we do every Friday. We have something called the Family Room, where we talk about different topics, but this is a topic that is very passionate to you.
Very passionate about it. You know, I've been passionate about this for many, many years, and there are a lot of bishops and pastors that ask me all the time, did you major in finances? Or, how do you flow like this? I said, well, I majored in broke for a long time. And so
not too long. I think we've been blessed now more than we were broke.
Oh yeah, we have. But the point is that drove me to want to study this area from a biblical perspective. So I'm very consumed with biblical economics and excited about that subject matter. My wife shares on it as well. And I believe we'll share some things today that's going to maybe hit home a little bit.
Just because one of the main reasons that people choose to no longer stay married
is money. Marriage is the number one reason for divorces in America based off the divorce decrees. It is cited as the number one reason for divorce in America. And so I believe that if you can fix your money, many times you can fix your marriage. Mm-hmm. Not being able to have agreement in this area has torn down a lot of relationships.
And I know a lot of people may feel like it is adultery. They may feel, you hear about sex, communication, and money are three of the main topics. But it is interesting that people don't realize how much money can affect the dynamics of a marriage.
Absolutely. And you said something powerful a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. One of my all-time favorite books that I read 30 years ago is Communication, Sex, and Money by Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole. Mm-hmm. The premise of the book, and I would recommend that to you if you could still find a copy. He went on to be with the Lord quite a long time ago. But the premise of the book that made it so powerful is that he says that whenever there's a challenge or a breakdown in a relationship, you can track it to one of three areas. It's either communication, sex, or money. And the reality is when one of those areas get affected, oftentimes the other ones get affected as a result of that.
Mm-hmm. So that has been something we have been passionate about in our church, in our marriage ministry, and young people that desire to get married. We have a class called Before You Say I Do, and we've tweaked that curriculum to really focus on the importance of budgeting, smart money management. You wrote a book on that.
Yeah, got a book. Got about 6 books. One of them was on smart money management. The last one that just recently came out this year is called Money Before Marriage. Mm-hmm. And the whole premise of that is that if we can get our money in a certain position before we're married, we're going to give that marriage a better chance and a better opportunity to be successful. Mm-hmm. So you can pick that book up on Amazon.com. You can get it in Audible books as well, audio books. Mm-hmm. And then you can get it as and Kindle as well. So there's several different ways that you can get that. Maybe you can check that out, and that might be something that helps as well.
Yeah. So if you have been married for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, if you're divorced, if you are single and you're a part of this conference, we want you to understand that there are valuable tips, information, strategies, biblical principles that we're going to share with you today in order for you to strengthen that foundation. That was one of the reasons why you selected the topic home improvement for the marriage conference, because really that foundation is what you've been talking about a lot.
It's a foundation. When you look at construction and the building of houses, it takes longer to build the foundation than it does to build the house.
Right.
That's the most significant part of the house. And so we're excited, again, about sharing about this topic and really kind of diving into this. We're very passionate about it. Now, I do want to tell you this also, that I'm not going to preach to you. She's not going to preach to you. It's going to be a discussion, because I believe that some things are taught, but other things are caught. And sometimes we need to take our time on the information so we can consume it and really be able to walk away with something.
Yes. Pastor Ramsey and I have been married for 25 and a half years.
Yeah.
We have 3 children. John Jr., who is 23, Jeremiah David, who is 19, and Judah Marie, who she is 11.
And she thinks she's 37.
Yes, she does.
So that's our crew. We've been married, she said, for 25 years. And one of the many things I think that makes our relationship so solid is that we're committed to it. We both have a deep conviction as it relates to our vows and what we said at that altar 25 years ago. I came from a family that I was the youngest of 5, and all 4 of my siblings got divorced once before they met their current wives and husbands that they've been in relationships for many, many years now. And so I just had a conviction that was not going to be the outcome for me. And I wanted to try to take the right type of approach so that we can be stable and strong and really learn how to grow in marriage.
Yes, because we're not perfect at it, but we do our best to learn, to listen. And that is why we are blessed to be able to share with you what you can do. This may be your second marriage. This may be, that pivotal point in your marriage. You may have signed up for this conference because you're not sure what you want to do as a married couple. We hope that you have been listening, taking notes, really being a part of finding out what it is that you need to do. Because that's the thing, too. I can't be a part of a conference and say, yep, see what you need to do, need to do. It is for me to reflect on what I need to do.
Hearing God for somebody else.
Yes, we have to definitely talk to our Generation Z and our millennials about that. Looking at what you can do differently.
Absolutely. And so as we get ready to jump into this, I believe that in marriage, trust is one of the key elements that makes a marriage successful. And trust is something that takes time to build, work to keep, seconds to lose, and years to regain. Because forgiveness does not necessarily mean the restoration of trust.
Good.
And so when couples go into a relationship being able to trust one another, it adds a certain level of stability to it. One example would be Adam and Eve. And the Bible says that they were naked and they were not ashamed. And I've said this for years now, that I think that nakedness in that context there means more than the absence of clothing. I think it means the absence of skeletons. Eve was saying that I'm hiding nothing on you. Adam was saying I'm the same. And as a result of that, there was no shame. What happens is when you have skeletons in the relationship, you're eventually going to have shame in that relationship. And so one of the passages that we want to talk about today is in Proverbs chapter 6.
And may I say, and keeping that in the context of trust regarding finances.
Absolutely.
Because that's a part that people will feel like, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm not, cheating on my spouse. I'm not doing anything wrong. But yet you're making poor decisions with the finances. Right. And you're keeping all of these things hidden from your spouse. We've seen situations where a spouse has filed for bankruptcy and the other didn't know.
Didn't even know it.
They lost their job. The other didn't know. The mortgage was behind. For the
other person didn't know.
And the other person didn't know.
I call it he money and she money. You know what that is? Yes. He the only one that knows where it is. So you got carnal cousins and relatives that's telling you to keep you a stash on the side just in case something go down. But you know what those carnal cousins are helping you do? They're helping you plan for failure. That's what they're helping you do.
And I said that because so many times people will say, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not hiding nothing from my spouse. I'm not. And yes, when it comes to finances,
you're cheating with the money.
Yes, absolutely.
Adultery with the money. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So we're talking about marriage and money. Mm-hmm. And one of the scriptures that can really kind of launch this discussion is Proverbs 6, verse 6 and 8. Yeah. It says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, and observe her ways and be wise, which having no chief or officer or ruler prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provisions in the harvest." He's saying there that even an insect has enough insight to know that you have to prepare for days that are coming. Right. And so he's saying, go to the ant, observe its ways, and be wise. So he's talking about the wisdom that goes into storing up something for the future. And I think that's scriptural, because the Bible says that a wise man, a good man, leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Right. We're not just supposed to prepare financially for our marriage and for our children, but for our grandchildren. And when you are gone, your great-great-grandchildren can still be blessed by what you were able to leave.
Absolutely. That was Proverbs 6 through 8. So get prepared, because we're going to show you and share with you some strategies on how you can prepare for the future. And
many of these strategies are going to be very practical. I'm not trying to be deep today. We're not trying to, kind of go into the Greek and Aramaic and everything else. We just need to get these principles together, so we can start navigating in the same direction. The Bible said, how can two walk together unless they be in agreement? And
and when we look at, so outside of another biblical passage that they can look at and study, outside of Proverbs 6 through 8, what else can they study before we go into sharing these tips with them?
Well, there's another passage that I'd love to have you study on your own in Matthew 25, and verse number 15 through the remainder of that chapter. Okay. And that's the chapter that talks about the three stewards, and that there was a master that got ready to go into a long trip. And he left his goods to three servants. To one, he gave 5 talents, to another with 2, and another 1. And the power behind that parable story is simply this, that when he came back, there was a reckoning. There was a period of accountability for what you did with what the master gave you.
That's good.
And one of them said, I went and I invested your 5 talents. See, I have 5 more. And he said, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. I'll make you ruler over many. Enter into the joy of your master. You know why? Because there's a joy that comes when you're building stability with your finances. And then he says the same thing to the next one, because he had 2. He went out and invested it. He made it 4. And then the last one, he says that I was afraid. So I hid your money here. You have what's yours. And he referred to that as wicked. You wicked and slothful slave. You could have at least put it in the bank and it earned some type of interest. It's amazing, because it's almost like God is saying that he looks at bad stewardship as wicked. When normally we think of adultery as that, we think of all the other things as that. But he also says that there's a level of that comes with the misappropriation of finances.
And so when we look at that scripture in regards to marriage, who does that responsibility fall on?
Great question. We've always felt like, sometimes the wife handles the money, sometimes the man handles the money. Right. I don't think it's an indictment against your manhood if your wife handles the money. Right. We have said this and given this counsel for 30 years, that for the last 25 years, that whoever handles money the best, let them handle the money. Right. Now, there are couples that they handle it together. Right. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. Right. But I really think that whoever handles it the best should be the one that's managing it. But that doesn't mean that you do that without accountability.
Absolutely.
Each partner in the marriage ought to have access to everything. We've always tried to use systems that you can go in, you can pull up, and you can see everything in any account that we've ever had, because you trusted me for so many years in that area. I wanted to make sure that the accountability stayed there and that the integrity stayed there by always knowing that you knew, what was there, and that I know you know how to manage it great yourself. So that worked for us.
And I think that's a good component to look at, because we were unlike some typical, pastors, ministers, and preachers. I had a career and he was a senior pastor when we met. So we had 2 finances, coming in, and we merged them together. We both had our responsibilities
Yeah.
on what we took care of.
Yep.
We budgeted our free money. So we're telling you this is something that we've done for 25 years.
Right.
Not just saying it because you were big on, when I met you, living debt free.
Yeah.
So that's always been, he's been paying the credit card off every month for 25 and a half years.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have one credit card and he's been paying it off because of the fact that you've always lived by that principle.
Yes.
So as we prepare to go into these tips, we're sharing these because we have the fruit and the manifestation of what it can bring you.
If you will live, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
If you'll live below your means now, you can live above your means later on.
Yes.
When you look at the pandemic, when you look at back in 2008, when the market crashed,
Right.
people were losing houses left and right.
Right.
I remember they had cars. Every car dealership you could think of was offering 0% interest if you had good credit. And the interesting thing to me about that, the only people that could get those prices were the people that had wealth in the first place.
Right.
And when you have wealth and a season comes around like that,
Right.
you can take advantage of it. You can buy 2 rental properties. You can do this. You can do
Absolutely.
that. You can really leverage your money to bring your family into a place of stability and make great investments.
Yes, and it's going to take discipline.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. So what we're going to share with you today, you may say, well, we can't make that happen. Yes, you can.
Yeah. And I heard someone say this a long time ago, that discipline is enforced obedience.
That's good.
Because sometimes the things that I need to be disciplined in are not the things that I want to do. If I want to lose weight and I need to cut back on my diet, the way I've been eating, exercise more, and all those types of things, I may not feel like doing any of that. But discipline is enforced obedience. So in the area of money, you got to enforce obedience in this area so that you can stay the course. Because the reality is, I've read a lot of statistics. I read them all the time. You know that. And one of the latest statistics says that there's a significant amount of people in America, I believe around 70%, that could not afford a $400 emergency.
Okay.
That if something happened, they don't have that in reserve somewhere, that they could just grab that and go. I don't want to have to start praying if my tire blows. I want to go get another tire. So a lot of these principles that we're going to give you really are going to kind of lead to being in a place where you're more stable.
It has been common for people to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
And that is the thing that we want to make uncommon.
And I've had many NFL players that come through our church and were members for a while, then they get traded somewhere else. And you would be amazed at how many people, so many Christians say things like, man, if I had $1 million, you couldn't tell me anything. But the reality is you've had $1 million. Because if you've been working for 20 years, you've had a lot of money pass through your hands. And the question is, when it comes to this whole thing on money, here's the catch. It's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Yes.
So many people keep thinking that another raise, another job is going to be the key to their breakthrough. And it's not what you make, it's what you're able to keep. So the first item that you can do to start getting a grip on your money is a budget.
Right. So you can write down these points, things you can do to get a grip on your finances.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through things that you can do to get a grip on your finances.
And a lot of people don't like that because they don't like keeping up with everything. You know why you don't like doing that? Because your money tells on you. Your money tells on you. And if you're not doing what you need to do with your money, if you got to track it for 30 to 60 days to find out exactly where everything is, you may not always like the outcome, but now that you got the outcome, you can start shifting some things. Because one of the things I've discovered over the years, and I want you to speak to this, a lot of people that keep saying that they got money problems, they don't. They're just not accountable with their money because they have thousands of dollars falling through the cracks. You know, your money's tight, but you eat out 7 days a week.
Right.
So when it comes to this budget thing, you have to look at what can I cut back on to start getting a grip on our finances.
Okay, so number one, get on a budget.
Yeah.
If you are not already living on a budget, it is time now to get on a budget.
Right.
And it is making a monthly budget to show you exactly where all of your money goes.
Everything goes.
His money goes, where your money goes. If you're single, where your money goes. If you have adult children living with you and they contribute to the main household,
Yes.
where everyone's money is going.
Because at the end of the day, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And even if you want to have some loose money, some fun money, or whatever, fine, no problem. Just put it in your budget. And there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of apps out there. Mint.com is one that I love. is free, but it does have a lot of advertisement in it. So if you don't have self-control in that area, sometimes you can end up doing something there.
Right. And I was going to say that because we used to tell people the pen and paper way and to write everything down. So what are some apps that you would suggest that people can use now to start that process?
I think one of the number one apps is Dave Ramsey has an app called Every Dollar.
Okay.
And the whole premise behind it is that you give an account for every dollar that you spend. Okay. What's wonderful about that is that if you're married, you can both you can download it on your phone, and you guys design your budget, and 24 hours a day, wherever you are, you got your budget right there with you.
Right.
So it kind of helps keep you accountable, and it's a great tool. There's two different versions. One version is free. Then there's a version that connects with all of your accounts, so you see everything that you currently have, and you have your budget layout in front of you.
Okay, and I see that in your notes, and this is very powerful to share with people as well, that when you live off of two incomes, and you have to have two incomes to survive, what happens when someone loses a job? So you often encourage people to reduce their budget to the level where they can live off of one income and save another income.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that we did for a long, long time.
Yes.
And it ended up being a major blessing to us later on. Because we didn't know when we had a child with special needs that we would spend 15 years paying for medication on that kind of a level.
And medical bills.
So we spent, can you
Yeah.
tell them what we spent for 15 years?
I can, because it was
It's
so
helping
much.
to keep him alive.
It is so much money that I can't even remember.
Yeah, I don't want to remember all of it.
Because he didn't receive any type of Medicaid. He did not receive any type of services that were not covered under our insurance.
Yeah.
And there was a time where there was a reason I even stayed on my career longer than I did was because we needed the health coverage.
Absolutely.
I had very good health coverage, and we needed that health coverage.
Absolutely, because many times it'd be between $25,000 and $30,000 a year that we would give. If we had not saved that one income for all those years,
Right.
we could have been in a really bad situation. So you never know what's coming down the road, and it's always good to have some level of preparation for it.
Good. So number one, let's get on the budget.
Get on the
And
budget.
stay on the budget.
Yeah.
Number two.
Number two is focus on the things that you have to survive.
Okay. Good.
Some people don't know the difference between a need and a greed. The Bible says that God will supply all of our need, but He's not obligated to our greed.
Right.
And so many times when you see people that really work hard for their money and taking care of their families and their responsibilities, I've heard people literally say this at our church. Well, I'm going to buy this anyways. I know it's expensive, but I'm going to buy it anyway. I deserve this. And my response to them was, no, you don't. You don't deserve that. Let me tell you what you deserve. You deserve what you prepared for.
That's good.
So if that's what you want, it's not a problem. Just prepare for it. But you don't wreck the family because you want a Chanel purse that you can't put no money in. Or you want something else. The brothers, it's a car. It's this, it's that. That's my thing. So you can't wreck your family's future because you want something and you want it now.
So focus on these four things that you need to survive. So what are those four things?
You want to hit them? You want me to hit them?
No, you go ahead.
Here we go. First things that you have to focus on, that you have to survive, number one is food.
Food. And you know what they tell you? You should have a list. I'm bad at this, so I'm not saying I have mastered this, but I know I do so much better of having a list before you go to the grocery store because it is so easy for you to do impulsive buys because you'll see sales and you won't get what you need. One thing during the pandemic and the social distancing was I did so much better with grocery shopping because I did a lot online. And I would just pick the things that I need because first of all, I didn't want to go through everything and do all that. So I did a better job of just picking what we needed here at the home. So they tell you it's best to go to the grocery store
with a list. They say anybody that doesn't, they overspend.
Yeah.
And that's just been one of the things that we've dealt with and we've seen with people for a very, very long time. So make a list, know what you're going for, get the list, get out the store. Now, I know some of the super saints right about now, you're saying, well, I wasn't expecting this. I want something deep. But see, I don't want to be deep and struggling. So this is really meant to be practical. And if your application is successful, you can really start seeing a significant turn in your finances.
Yes, because in that budget, you should be calculating how much money you spend eating out.
Yes.
How much money you spend at Starbucks. How much money you spend
on technology.
we're just on food. That's what I was just thinking about it. So food includes, really you taking the time to, yes, I need food to survive, but do we have to eat out 3 days a week? Do we have to eat out 4 days a week?
A lot of people want stability, but they don't want to sacrifice anything to get it. They want to continue to eat out 5 days a week. They want to continue to. Sometimes we tell people to downsize, sell your car, get something cheaper for right now. You can always go back up. So the 4 things that you got to have to survive. Number 1 is food. Number 2 is utilities. Number 3 is a place to live. Okay, it can be an apartment or a house.
Right.
And number 4 is transportation.
Can you go back to utilities? Because there are some things we did in regards to utilities that people don't think about. Even
to this day, every time we've ever moved and gone to a different house that we wanted to get, I get on a budget with all the utilities. So I can anticipate what it's going to be year round. It's not because, you can't pay it or anything else, but it's just a wise thing to do because it consistently becomes the same number in your budget every month, and it makes it easier to budget everything.
Right. And there are things you don't need. We got rid of cable.
Yeah.
We got rid of the upgrades on things and the subscriptions on things. So there are a lot of things that you don't need utility-wise. I
spent one day just going through app subscriptions. And I probably eliminated enough to free up about $100, $150 a month. So there's so many different ways that you can look to cut money. And it's not about being cheap. It's about being wise. Right. Because when you cut from another area, that means that you can be a little bit more stable in this area. So it's about sacrificing.
Right. And I like what you said under place to live. So we're talking about the 4 things you need to survive. You said foods, utilities, place to live, and transportation. Shelter.
Yes.
What is it that and especially if you are single, you just graduated from college, maybe you're newly divorced, you give them a suggestion there. They may not want to hear it, but it's a good suggestion.
Well, here it is. And I know you don't want to hear it, but here it is. The problem with a lot of our young people coming out of college is they want to get and acquire what it took their mother and father 30 years to get in 30 days.
Right.
They want it all. And so they don't want to wait. They don't want to sacrifice it. Because of that, many of them get ripped off with interest rates and things of that nature.
Right.
In the hood, in every city, you can find the payday loans, cigarettes, and liquor.
Right.
On every single corner.
Right.
And to a great degree, the misappropriation of credit cards is nothing more than a self-imposed payday loan. That's it. Right. So having a grip on these things all really help us.
So what is the advice you would give them on a place to live? So what they don't want to hear?
Live beneath your means. Well, I don't want to live in that neighborhood. I want to go out to the suburbs.
And then sometimes you have to move in with your parents for a few months.
Some have done that.
So you may go through a divorce and say, well, I'm ready to get my own place. I haven't lived with my parents in the last 10, 20 years. We understand that. But this is a temporary situation due to something that could have been out of your control.
Yeah.
So you may have to do that. You've told people that many times.
I've told them that many times.
Move back home, save money for that down payment.
Yeah, absolutely.
The security deposit, first month's rent. Yeah. If the payment on a house, whatever you may need. And if your parent is willing and open to allow you to do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
But I also believe if you're the parent, there ought to be stipulations on that.
Absolutely.
They need to, if it's giving you a certain amount of rent, just for the principle of it. I know a lot of people. I talked to a guy that I played football with in high school when I went up to that meeting, and he was telling me about a son that's come back home, and he was just trying to get himself together. He said, I'm charging him $500 a month.
Right.
He said, but what he doesn't know, that in 12 months when he gets ready to leave, I'm going to give him that money. So he can get out, get established, and feel pretty good about himself trying it again.
I see that highlight you have there that says just make sure you have the discipline to save what you would have been spending on your own place to live.
Exactly. Because if you don't, you really violate the whole reason why you're doing what you're doing.
Good. And under transportation.
Let me breathe out for that one. Transportation. Drive what you can drive comfortably.
Yes.
I used to say this. I say this to our members all the time. I say it wherever I go and I have to deal with this subject. The question is not, can you purchase it? Can you purchase it comfortably? Because you don't want it to be a blessing when you drive it off a lot, but it's going to be a curse on the first when you got to pay for it. That's having a champagne taste on a Kool-Aid budget. And it's just really the smart thing to do is just drive what you can afford to drive.
And these practical principles are necessary.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot grow our marriage or have a strong foundation if we spend time with you, exegeting Proverbs.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you and I
Mm-hmm.
make smart money management decisions or raise these children according to the word and leave an inheritance to our children's children if we do not have these constructive conversations, because a lot of couples, that is a hot topic. I heard
Right.
someone say this on a program I was watching. He said, me and my wife have been married 42 years and we have two things we still don't agree on. He said money and how to raise the children.
Wow,
I'm
those
like-
are two major things.
I was like, after 42 years.
Yeah, I'm thinking they come around at some point.
And so in my mind, I took that as they probably just don't even deal with those two times.
They don't. They just separate them
Yes,
and do what
and
they
a
got
lot
to do.
of people have done that where you don't even want to address finances. You're sitting there saying, Lady Ramsey, she's not going to change. She's just going to keep spending up the money. Or, saying, Lady Ramsey, he don't get it. He thinks he's better with money when I can balance the books better.
Exactly. And really a lot of it has to do with trust. And it's got to be a partnership.
Yes.
There's got to be the reality is there are a lot of people nowadays that they can't afford to just live off the husband's salary or live off the wife's salary. They have to be able to work that thing together.
Right.
But that's the common word right there. That's the key word.
Yeah.
That's the clutch word right there.
Yeah.
And that is together. You can't spend your marriage fighting over money.
Right.
And so many people do, and it just really robs you of the environment that you should have in your house to raise your kids.
So we're sharing with you things that you need to get a grip on your finances. So number one was make a budget. Number two was focus on the 4 things that you need to survive. And that was food, utilities, shelter, and transportation.
Yes.
So now number 3.
Number 3 is if you're behind on your bills, communicate with all of your creditors. That's just something that it's the right thing to do. And many times what happens is they may sometimes give you some more grace because every time you call in, even if you can't pay it, they noted on the computer that you called in to let them know that I might be a little bit late with this or
Right.
whatever the scenario is,
Yes.
or can I get a special payment plan or something like that. That's called integrity. And it's really important that people understand that sometimes what you do with your money is an indication of what you do with your life. You waste
Absolutely.
it, you spend it, or you invest it. And when you communicate with people like that, that's when you're operating in integrity. And what happens when we operate in integrity? God blesses our efforts.
So say that again, what people do.
What's that?
You went through them so fast. They just
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
So what do people do? You said
Yeah,
they waste it.
yeah.
So
What you do with your money is an indication of what you do with your life. You waste it, you spend it, or you invest it.
Good.
And it's very important that we all understand that.
So I think that's something they can do right now is to really think about how they are managing their finances.
Yes.
Because they want so much. We know the Bible says if you're faithful over a few things, he'll make you ruler over many.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will look at individuals who have many and they want those things.
Yeah.
Not realizing that God is looking at how they handle, as you talked about the talents,
Yeah.
how they handled the portion that they were given.
Exactly. And one of the things I thought was interesting in that story about the talents, nobody was tripping off what the other one had.
That's good.
And in our society, you see somebody else with a Bentley, you want one. I've driven and I've rolled in many Bentleys and Rolls Royces and all that, and I've never got out wanting one. At some point in the ball game, if you're ever going to have contentment in life, you got to learn how to be comfortable with the level that God is going to allow you to live on.
And that is something you and I have always been that way. We have never went out and purchased a new house because of seeing somebody else's house or feel like we
Yeah.
had to travel because the way somebody else traveled. We've always learned how to be content in whatever state we were in.
Yeah, we just run in our own lane,
Yeah.
and we enjoy the moment. And I've said this for many, many years, and our churches used to be saying this. But a lot of Christians have been deceived into thinking that happiness is a location.
Right.
And so they take on this mindset that I'll be happy when I'm making 6 figures. I'll be happy when I can move out of the hood. I'll be happy when I can get out the apartment and have a house.
Right.
And at the end of the day, the Bible says this is the day the Lord has made.
Right.
So happiness means that you learn how to also live in the moment and appreciate what God has given you right where you are.
Yes, and we have never put pressure on each other. I've never told him I need another house or I need this, I want this, never have done that.
But because she comes like that, it's always made me drive to want to provide those things as best I could, knowing that you're always going to help, you're always going to be a
Yes.
part of the process, but it's always driven me. She's never asked me for a car. She drives, nice cars. I drive decent cars, that type of thing, but she's never said, I got to drive a Benz, I got to drive this, I got to drive that, I got to drive this. And when she gets the car, I tell her, I say, I love buying your car brand new. I said, because you're going to drive it for 8 years. So we're going to get our money's worth out of it.
I just like to drive fast.
Yeah, she likes to
No
drive.
matter
As long as
what
it's
happens.
fast, she'll drive it for 8-9 years. I told her, I said, I ain't paying for no tickets. That ain't in the budget.
Yeah, no, that's my only problem.
You
That's
gotta
my
pay
only
for that.
problem. I just like to drive fast. So what is number 3 for us to get a grip on our finances?
Well, number 3 was if you're behind on your bills, communicate with your creditors.
Good.
That's a smart thing to do.
Okay, good. Now we're on number 4.
Sell things that you don't need.
That's hard for some people to do, but nowadays there's so many resources. Even old-fashioned, of course, garage sale, yard sale, but there is eBay, Poshmark.
Yeah.
There's so many different apps that you can use to sell things.
Absolutely.
There's really no reason to have an abundance or access of things that you don't need.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many people clean this stuff that they don't even use.
Yes. No, I agree. And then you know what happens? Then when we leave this earth, people casting lots over your stuff.
Exactly. They in the bedroom fighting over your wardrobe.
With all of your stuff or having to throw it out. You've seen this with elderly parents. It's like, oh, there's so much stuff. I have to get rid of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we can't take any of it with us.
I was talking to my brother, and my brother sometimes, my oldest brother, is tight. Okay.
He's not tight anymore.
He's a little bit tight. But no, he's loosened up. He's good. It took about 20 years to get him out of that, but he's good. And he was talking about this one particular type of car that he just loves. And I said, man, why don't you get one? He's about 10, 11 years older than I am. And I said, why don't you get one? He said, I don't know, man. I was thinking about this and thinking about that. I said, you know why I got what I got? Because I can't get one in heaven.
That's right.
I said, man, I'm going to get it here. I can't buy one of those up there. And you can't leave anything, you can't take anything with you. Leaving it for your children is always a great thing to do. But he's worked so hard in his field and been successful for so many years. I said, man, how are you going to hurt your budget if you do that? You're not.
Right.
So pull the trigger.
Good. I told you got to get another analogy out.
I like that. I like that analogy.
Know,
She don't like it when I say that. What's the other one?
With all the gun violence.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll work on that
I'm
one.
not laughing at the gun violence, but I've told him just use another analogy.
I just like that analogy.
I know you do.
My friends call me and say, hey, Doc, I'm thinking about this such and such car. What do you think? I said, man, pull the trigger, man. What's wrong with you? Go and pull the trigger.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on from that.
Yeah.
Before we start arguing on camera.
And number 5. What is number 5?
Number 5, get a temporary job as a side hustle.
But what do you mean? I have a position in the church. I'm a part of leadership. God has anointed me, called me, appointed me for such a time as this. I'm going to believe by faith and pray and know that this is going to work out.
If you broke, Jesus told you to get a job. That's what he told you.
I
don't need no burning bush. I don't need Gabriel on the Michael to come show up.
Necessarily break it down. What is broke? Because there are some people that don't understand what it means.
Yeah.
To struggle financially. They think they're doing well, and it's like you're not doing well.
Exactly. Don't let your title become an idol. Yes. Don't because you're a pastor, because you're an elder, because you're this, because you're overseer, whatever it is. You got to do what's right by your family, and you can't let your pride get in the way if you're in need of going to get another job.
Yes.
Just do the right thing with the money when you get it.
Right. Because if you are living paycheck to paycheck.
That's not God's will.
And it's not stable, and it is not a firm foundation for your family, and it will not allow you to leave an inheritance to your children's children. And we believe in multiple streams.
Yes.
And you can do that without it being necessarily something that is not integral. There are so many ways that you can, people sometimes get in these Ponzi schemes where they get in these different positions where they want to make this quick money.
Yeah.
Instead of truly looking for something connected to their purpose, their skill level.
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, that makes me think about the scripture. The Bible said, wealth gained hurriedly dwindles.
Right.
But he that gathereth by labor increases it. So stop looking for get-rich-quick schemes.
Absolutely.
Man, I heard about this thing over there, Bitcoin and all that. stop looking for that and just come up with a solid plan that when you work it over a period of time is going to bring you to a place that reaches your goals.
Right. And be in agreement. So if you decide to get a second job, one thing about you and I, even before I took promotions on my job, so if I was offered promotions or asked to interview for another position, you and I always talked about it because we knew it would affect our family. So, going from a teacher to a dean to a principal, I knew a principal would be more hours of work and take more, off of, it would take more, should I say, put more on you as a husband. And I needed to make sure you were in agreement. So sometimes people will go out and say, well, we need the money. I'm going to take this job. We need the money. Right. But they're not in agreement.
Yeah, we've never done anything that the other one wasn't in agreement about.
Right.
And that was huge. So you can be saying, well, God told me. But if your wife can't confirm it, he may have told you, but the time may not be right now. And just knowing the difference between the two can really change the game for you.
And making those sacrifices. We had a great conversation last week in our family room, and we were able to talk to a bishop and his wife, and they made a sacrifice, but they were in agreement for him to leave his career.
Yes.
For what God called him to do. And she was in full agreement. And I love the way they shared that story. So it is really important.
It was powerful. So, so there's a lot of information, and this is something that we can talk about for a long time. So I know we don't have a ton of time left, but we want to kind of work on just a few more of these if we can get those in. Number 6, you want to hit that?
Look for things to cut. And we've talked about that when we talked about utilities earlier. So as we said earlier, make sure that you buy your needs and not your wants.
Yeah.
And do you truly need the top grade package for cable? Do you need the top grade internet? Yes, you want the fastest internet, but do you really need to pay for that every month? Think about those things.
Right. And, some people don't, I've told guys this, some people don't need a smartphone. They need a dumb phone. They need a phone that only got a couple features on it, but yet you can make a call when you need to. Right. You don't need it to cook dinner for you and all that kind of thing. Right. But you lean those things out in your budget.
Right. Wait for your upgrades. I'll wait for my upgrades. If that, my phone has to just die before I get another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We different in that area.
We're totally different in that area. But let's also talk about, I want to make sure with the time that we have left that we also talk about what we do for strategic planning and accounts.
So when we look at budgeting, so we could take this back to the first one. So when we look for budgeting, so we're going to give you some examples here as we finish out of how we have implemented a lot of these things that we are telling you to get a grip on our finances.
We really do practice these, and these do work. So we tend to have an account for everything.
Yes.
If it's we got an account that I have it labeled on the computer as vacation account. We have an account for Christmas account. We have an account for our daughter's education. We have an account 529 for my son's college education. And we contribute to all of those so that we know that we have something there.
And let them know when you opened up the 529.
Oh, the 529, I opened it up the week he was born.
Yes.
And I went to the bank, I'll never forget it. And the lady looked at me like I was crazy. I walked in there and I said, listen, I need a 529. And I think she was shocked I knew what that was at first. But I said, I need a 529. I've been reading about these for a long time. Yeah. My wife just gave birth to our first child. Here's $50. Open up my 529. Every month you're going to see me with that $50 until I can do more.
So when it was time for him to go to college, he was an athlete, so he got a partial scholarship, and the other half we had to pay out of pocket, and we were comfortable doing that because it came directly from his 529. And now he's in graduate school, and he got that completely paid for, so he got a full residency program, so we can use that to help support him through that program.
What's great about the 529 is the power of compound interest. Benjamin Franklin said there's a lot of powers in this world, but there are a few things more powerful than compound interest. So the earlier you start on that, or even a retirement account, the better it's going to be for you down the road.
And we said we have all of these accounts for different things. I can see them. I have access to them.
All of them.
But neither one of us take money out of those accounts without sitting down and talking about what we're going to be doing, why we're going to be doing. Even for Christmas, he'll say, well, what's the budget for Christmas? What do you want to do for Christmas? And then we make that decision together. So we have done this now 25 years.
Yeah, when I was single, I didn't even have anybody to give a gift to outside of my parents. And I had a little Christmas account because I didn't have a ton of money, and I know I wanted to get them something nice.
Yes.
And so year round we save. Our daughter's in private school, so we work on that year round. Boom, then we pay for either the whole year or half a year. We go right back to it. Boom, we do it again. And what it does is it works for us, and we're able to stay on all the other things that we want to try to accomplish because we got a plan for everything that we do.
Right. And we're not saying that it's always been easy.
No,
but
it hasn't.
now we're in the place where we just coast through it.
Mm-hmm.
We had to start out having difficult conversations.
Yes.
We had to start out, really just like many of you saying, okay, we want to do this well. We want to do this according to God's word. So we're going to have to talk about it. Even if I didn't want to talk about it, if he didn't want to talk about something, because, this is the way we wanted to do it in the beginning. But sometimes you change.
Yeah.
Because your budget, can change at times.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared and willing to do it, but you got to talk about it.
Have the difficult conversations, because at the end of the conversation, it brings so much peace to your house. So I want to try to close this out. I'd like to try to close this out. What do you think about giving them the rules for arguing?
No. Why would you give away another message? You can use that for something totally
You want me to use that for something else?
I think you should.
Okay, I was gonna give them that because I know we talk about conflict and everything.
Absolutely not.
All right, y'all got to hit me back up and get that.
No, because we would like to be invited back.
I was trying to give you something free.
If we get invited back, we can do that the next time.
Right, we'll
we have a lot ahead of us. No, we're not putting it all in one.
I can't give you that.
We truly hope that God blessed you and you were able to receive some impartation from this subject of money before marriage.
And here's the last thing I would say, that learn how to enjoy marriage.
Yes.
Learn how to enjoy each other where you are. Sometimes you got to have love on a budget. Enjoy each other where you are. Stop thinking that happiness is a location.
Yes.
And learn how to walk in contentment today. Yes. The Bible says, despise not the day of small beginnings. The word despise has to do with resenting. Yes. And it's almost like the implication is, if you resent where you are, you'll never leave. So it's important that we grab a hold of and be grateful and thankful right where we are.
Yes. My name is First Lady Alicia Ramsey. I want to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of this conference and to talk about money before marriage.
Absolutely. I'm Overseer John Ramsey Sr. It has been an honor and a blessing. We hope we get a chance to do it again. I'd love to see it in person at some time. But thank you all so much for reaching out to me and asking us to do this. Appreciate you. God bless.